The great council chamber on Station Harmony filled with worried voices. 12 different alien species had gathered for what might be their last meeting. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime as creatures from across the galaxy tried to find a solution to their biggest problem. Ambassador Kexla of the Water People moved his webbed hands in quick. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. Next to him sat the crystal beings called Vorthans. Their bodies made soft musical sounds that showed they were upset. The snake-like Zephyrians coiled and uncoiled themselves on their special platforms. Counselor Thys raised herself up on her long tail. Her golden scales caught the light as she spoke to the gathered crowd. The Devourers have destroyed another star system. The Kelton homeworlds are gone. 15 billion lives turned to dust. A heavy silence fell over the room. Everyone had seen the reports. Where the Kelton planets used to shine in space, there was now nothing, just empty darkness and floating rocks. "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Venatar, the chief scientist. Her big compound eyes reflected the holographic display that showed the enemy fleet moving through space like a dark cloud. Thys touched a control pad with the tip of her tail. Red dots appeared on the star map showing where the Devourers had attacked. Each dot represented billions of dead. At their current speed, they will reach the core worlds in 47 standard days. Our home planets will be next. The room erupted in panicked voices. Some aliens spoke in high whistles, others in deep rumbling sounds. All of them were afraid. Ambassador Kexla stood up, water dripping from his gills. "What about our combined fleets? Surely together we can stop them." Commander Zult, a gray-skinned military officer, shook his head slowly. His forearms moved to different control panels, bringing up battle statistics. "Our greatest fleet has 3,000 ships. Intelligence reports show the Devourers have over 30,000 vessels. Their smallest ships are larger than our biggest battleships." "There has to be something we can do," pleaded Representative Mira from the plant-like Sylvan people. Her leaf-covered skin rustled with anxiety. "We cannot just wait to die." Dr. Venatar pulled up more data on her tablet. "We have tried everything. The ancient weapons from the predecessor ruins did nothing to their shields. Our most powerful bombs cannot even scratch their whole armor. They have technology that bends reality itself." Thys nodded grimly. 3 cycles ago, the Corlin tried to negotiate with them. The Devourers sent back the ambassador's ship. It was empty. Every living thing inside had been turned into gray dust. The fear in the room grew thicker. These were not evil beings, just people trying to protect their families and worlds. But they faced an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. "We sent distress signals to every corner of the galaxy," said Communication Officer Trek, a small furry creature with big ears. "Maybe someone out there has knowledge we do not. Maybe some old race has weapons that can help us." Most of the aliens did not look hopeful. The galaxy had been mapped for thousands of years. All the major civilizations were already in this room or had already fallen to the Devourers. What could possibly be left? Commander Zult checked his instruments. "Sir, we are getting a response to one of our distress calls." The room went quiet. Thys straightened up. "Put it through the main speakers." Static filled the air for a moment. Then a voice came through, speaking in clear Galactic standard language. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call about hostile forces in your sector. Request permission to dock at your station for immediate tactical discussion." The aliens looked at each other with confusion. None of them had heard of Terrans before. Their computers ran quick searches through all known species databases. No results found for Terrans, reported Dr. Venatar. Their ships do not match any known design patterns. Kexla's skills fluttered nervously. Where did they come from? How did they get our distress signal? Commander Zolt was studying his scanner readings. Sir, I am detecting 6 small vessels. Approaching, they appear to be primitive by our standards. Simple metal hulls, basic propulsion systems. No energy shields that I can detect. Primitive ships, and we have never heard of them, muttered Representative Mira. How can they possibly help us against the Devourers? But Thesis was thinking differently. We are desperate. If there is even the smallest chance they know something, we do not. We must try. Grant them docking permission. The next hour passed slowly as the unknown ships approached the station. The aliens watched on their screens as 6 small blocky vessels came closer. Ships looked rough and practical, like tools made for hard work rather than beauty. Their communication signals are strange, noted Officer Trek. They use very basic encryption, but their language patterns suggest high intelligence. Dr. Venatar was running scans on the approaching ships. Interesting. Their hulls show signs of recent combat damage. Whoever these Terrans are, they have been fighting recently. This caught everyone's attention. If these beings had survived combat, maybe they had useful experience. Combat damage? Asked Commander Zolt. Against what enemy? Unknown, replied the doctor. The weapon signatures do not match anything in our databases. As the Terran ships docked with the station, security cameras showed the airlock areas. The aliens watched nervously as they waited to see what these mysterious Terrans looked like. Thesis addressed the gathered council. Remember, we are desperate. These beings came to help when we called for aid. We must be respectful and hope they have knowledge that can save us. The docking process completed with a series of metallic clangs and hissing sounds. Green lights showed that the airlocks had sealed properly and life support was working. They are requesting to come aboard, reported Officer Trek. Would allow it. Yes, said Thesis firmly. But have security teams ready just in case. The main airlock door slid open with a soft whoosh. The aliens held their breath as they waited to see what would emerge. What they saw surprised them completely. 6 beings walked through the doorway. They stood on 2 legs and had 2 arms, like several other species in the galaxy. But something about them was different. They moved with a fluid grace that suggested they were comfortable in dangerous situations. Their eyes constantly scanned the room, taking in every detail. The leader stepped forward. He was tall by most galactic standards, with short brown hair and weathered skin that spoke of a hard life. His uniform was simple, but practical, with equipment attached that looked well used. I am Captain Jake Morrison, he said in a calm voice. Thank you for allowing us aboard your station. We understand you have a problem with hostile forces. Behind him, 5 other humans looked around the chamber with interest rather than the fear or awe that most species showed when meeting aliens for the first time. Diz's found her voice first. Welcome, Captain Morrison. I am High Counselor These of the Zephyrian Republic. We are grateful that you responded to our call for help. The human captain nodded politely. We were in the area conducting patrol operations when we picked up your distress signal. From what we could understand, you are facing an enemy called the Devourers. Yes, Thesis replied, surprised by how direct these beings were. They have destroyed dozens of star systems. Our combined fleets cannot match their power. We fear all life in this sector will be extinct within 50 days. Captain Morrison exchanged a glance with his team. One of them, a woman with black hair, stepped forward. I am Commander Lisa Park, she said. Captain, perhaps we should review their tactical data before making any assessments. Morrison nodded. Good idea, Counselor These. Would it be possible to see your intelligence reports on these Devourers? We would like to understand exactly what we are dealing with. The aliens were struck by how calm these humans seemed. Every other species had reacted to news of the Devourers with panic or despair. These Terrans acted like this was just another problem to solve. Of course, said Thesis. Dr. Venatar, please prepare the full briefing materials. As the aliens began gathering their data, none of them noticed the small smile that crossed Captain Morrison's face. They had no way of knowing that humanity had spent its entire existence fighting impossible odds and winning. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you asked the Deathworlders for help. The briefing room buzzed with nervous energy as aliens and humans gathered around the large holographic display. Dr. Venatar stood at the main control panel, her compound eyes reflecting the blue light from the data screens. The 6 humans sat calmly in chairs that had been quickly adjusted for their size. Captain Morrison leaned forward as the first images appeared. "Show us everything you have on these Devourers." The hologram flickered to life, displaying a massive black ship that seemed to absorb light around it. The alien observers shuddered at the sight, but the humans watched with professional interest. "This is a Devourer battleship," explained Dr. Venatar. "It measures 12 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Their hulls are made from some unknown material that our weapons cannot damage." Commander Lisa. Park made notes on a small device. "What about their propulsion systems? How do they move through space?" "We do not fully understand their technology," admitted Commander Zolt. "They seem to bend space around their ships, allowing them to travel faster than our best vessels." The display changed to show battle footage from previous encounters. The aliens watched in grim silence as Devourer ships tore through defensive fleets like they were made of paper. Energy beams lanced out from the dark vessels, turning Allied ships into clouds of expanding gas. Lieutenant Sam Hughes, stocky man with sharp eyes, studied the combat recordings. Their reaction time seemed slow. When that blue ship tried to flank them, it took almost 10 seconds for them to respond. The aliens looked at him in confusion. Ambassador Kexla spoke up, his gills fluttering. 10 seconds is considered very fast for space combat. Most of our commanders need 30 seconds. To process new threats and issue orders?" The humans exchanged glances. Chief Engineer Ben Carter, a thin man with grease-stained fingers, was examining the technical data. "Their weapons are impressive, but they seem to rely on brute force rather than precision. Look at this energy output pattern." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the team's scientist, leaned closer to the display. She was younger than the others, with bright eyes that missed nothing. "The energy signatures suggest they use some kind of reality manipulation. Fascinating technology, but it must require enormous power." High Counselor Theses watched the humans with growing confusion. Every other species had reacted to this information with terror. These Terrans seemed more curious than afraid. "You do not understand," she said, her tail coiling anxiously. "The Devourers have never been defeated. In over 2,000 years, they have destroyed every civilization they have encountered. No weapon can pierce their armor. No shield can stop their attacks." Captain Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "How do they choose their targets? Do they follow any predictable patterns?" Commander Zolt brought up a star map showing the Devourer attacks over time. Red dots marked destroyed systems, creating a rough line through space. They seemed to move in a straight path, consuming everything in their way. There is no communication, no demands for surrender. They simply arrive and begin the destruction. Dr. Rodriguez studied the pattern with interest. They move like a natural disaster rather than an intelligent force, almost like a swarm of insects, consuming crops. The comparison made several aliens uncomfortable. Representative Mira, the plant-like Sylvan, rustled her leaves nervously. "Are you suggesting they are not truly intelligent?" "They're intelligent," replied Dr. Rodriguez. "But their intelligence seems focused on destruction and consumption. They may not be used to facing enemies who fight back effectively." This statement surprised the entire Alien Council. Ambassador Kexla spoke for all of them. "Every species has fought back. The Corlin resistance lasted for 3 months. Hegemony threw everything they had at the Devourers. All of them failed." Lieutenant Hughes was still studying the combat footage. "Captain, look at their formation patterns. They always arrange themselves the same way, with the largest ships in the center and smaller vessels and a protective screen." "Standard overwhelming force doctrine," agreed Commander Park, "designed to crush enemies through superior firepower. But it leaves them vulnerable to unconventional attacks." The aliens listened to this discussion with growing amazement. These Terrans were analyzing the Devourers like any other military problem, not the unstoppable force of nature that had terrorized. The Galaxy Chief Engineer Carter had been quietly reviewing technical specifications. Their ships are impressive, but I see some potential weaknesses. Their energy systems seem to operate at extremely high temperatures. That suggests cooling might be a problem. Dr. Venator looked at the human engineer with confusion. Cooling? Why would that matter? Everything generates heat when it works hard, explained Carter patiently. The more powerful a system, the more heat it produces. If we could overload their cooling systems, their own weapons might shut down to prevent damage. This was a completely new way of thinking for the aliens. They'd always focused on building bigger weapons or stronger shields. The idea of using an enemy's strength against them was foreign to most galactic civilizations. Captain, Morrison stood up and walked to the holographic display. He studied the Devourer ship designs with the eye of an experienced soldier. What about their crew? Do we know anything about the beings that operate these ships? The room fell silent. High Counselor, Thesis spoke quietly. No one has ever seen a live Devourer and survived to report it. A few times we have recovered wreckage, we found no bodies, no life support systems that we could recognize. They might be artificial intelligences, suggested Dr. Rodriguez. Or they could be beings so different from us that we cannot recognize their needs. Commander Park was taking notes on everything. What about their logistics? Ships this large must require enormous amounts of fuel and supplies. How do they maintain themselves during long campaigns? Commander Zolt looked puzzled. He had never thought about that question. They seem to operate indefinitely without stopping for resupply. Nothing operates indefinitely, said Chief Engineer Carter firmly. They must get energy and materials from somewhere. Maybe they process the matter, from destroyed planets to fuel their ships. This idea made the aliens even more uncomfortable. The thought that their destroyed worlds were being turned into fuel for the enemy fleet was deeply disturbing. Lieutenant Hughes had been quiet for several minutes, studying personnel reports from previous battles. How many species have the Devourers encountered, and how did those species typically fight? Dr. Venator accessed the historical records. 47 known civilizations have been destroyed. Most relied on defensive strategies, building strong fortifications and trying to outlast the attack. What about offensive action? Asked Hughes. A few species attempted direct assault, replied Commander Zolt. The results were always the same: complete destruction of the attacking fleets. Captain Morrison returned to his seat. You mentioned that they have never retreated or negotiated. Have they ever faced an enemy that used unconventional tactics? The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Representative Mira spoke first. What do you mean by unconventional? Commander Park answered. Surprise attacks? Guerrilla warfare? Psychological operations? Asymmetric combat techniques? Strategies that do not rely on matching the enemy's strength directly. The alien council members exchanged confused glances. These concepts were not part of their military thinking. Most galactic civilizations had evolved beyond such tactics. Preferring formal combat between organized fleets, Dr. Rodriguez was studying biological data from destroyed worlds. Captain, I am noticing something interesting in these reports. World the Devourers attacked had advanced civilizations, but they were all relatively peaceful species. Meaning? Asked Morrison. None of these species evolved as predators. They developed intelligence through cooperation and tool use, not through competition and conflict. The implications of this observation hung in the air. Chief Engineer Carter looked up from his technical analysis, as they have never fought anyone who actually enjoys fighting. Ambassador Kexla was shocked by this statement. You enjoy combat? That seems disturbing. Lieutenant Hughes smiled grimly. Not enjoy exactly, but humans have been fighting for survival since we first walked upright. We are very good at it. High Counselor, this has studied the humans with new eyes. Your species is naturally aggressive. Aggressive might be the wrong word, said Captain Morrison carefully. We are adaptable. When faced with a threat, we find ways to overcome it. Sometimes that requires violence, sometimes it requires cleverness. Usually it requires both. The briefing continued for several more hours as the humans absorbed every piece of information about the Devourers. They asked questions that had never occurred to the aliens, looked for patterns that no one else had noticed, discussed possibilities that seemed impossible to the Galactic Council. As the session ended, Dr. Venatar approached Dr. Rodriguez. "Your species seems very different from the others we have met. Where do you come from?" Dr. Rodriguez smiled politely. "A small planet in the outer rim. Nothing special, really. Just a world that taught us to be survivors." But as the humans prepared to leave the briefing room, none of the aliens noticed the significant looks they shared. None of them understood that humanity had just finished their initial assessment of a new enemy. The medical bay on Station Harmony had never seen anything like this. Dr. Venatar stared at the scanner results in complete disbelief. She ran the tests 3 more times, but the numbers did not change. "This cannot be correct," she muttered to herself, checking the calibration on her equipment for the 4th time. Captain Morrison sat patiently on the examination table while the alien, a doctor, worked. The other humans waited nearby, having already completed their own scans. The medical examination had been Dr. Rodriguez's idea, suggested as a way to help the aliens understand what they were working with. "Is there a problem?" asked Morrison. Politely, Dr. Venatar's compound eyes focused on him with obvious confusion. "Your bone density is 3 times higher than what we consider normal for most species. Your muscle fibers contain redundant systems that should not be possible. And your cardiovascular readings suggest you could survive in conditions that would kill most galactic citizens." High Counselor Thesis slithered into the medical bay, drawn by reports of the unusual examination results. "Doctor, what have you discovered?" "These beings are not like anything in our databases," replied Dr. Venatar, her voice filled with scientific excitement and worry. "Their physiology suggests they evolved under extreme conditions. Look at these brain scans." The holographic display showed detailed images of human brain structure. Areas responsible for threat detection, rapid decision-making, and stress response were significantly larger than in other known species. "Their nervous systems are designed for constant danger assessment," continued the doctor. "Most civilized species have brains optimized for cooperation and complex thinking. These humans have both advanced intelligence and primitive survival instincts." Commander Lisa Park stepped forward. "Doctor, you seem concerned about our biology. Is there something we should know?" Dr. Venatar looked at her with a mixture of fascination and fear. "Your species has characteristics we typically associate with apex predators, but you also display advanced social behavior and tool use, which is a combination we have never seen." Before Ambassador Kexla entered the medical bay, his gills fluttering with nervous energy. "Counselor Thesis, we need to discuss the human's home system. Our long-range sensors have gathered some disturbing information." The group moved to the main observation deck, where a large holographic display showed the Sol system. Earth appeared as a blue and green sphere, looking deceptively peaceful from space. "Tell us about your home world," requested Thesis, genuinely curious about these mysterious beings. Dr. Rodriguez activated her own datapad and began sharing information about Earth. "Our planet has a surface gravity of 9.8 meters per second squared. The atmosphere is 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, with trace gases." The aliens looked at these numbers with growing alarm. Commander Zolt was the first to speak. "The gravity is twice what most species can handle for extended periods. And that oxygen concentration would be toxic to many of us." Carter laughed, not unkindly. "Those are pretty mild conditions, actually. We have regions on Earth with much more extreme environments." "More extreme?" asked Representative Mira, her leaf-like skin rustling with anxiety. Lieutenant Hughes pulled up images from Earth on the display. "We have deserts where the temperature reaches 60 degrees Celsius, mountain ranges where the air is too thin to breathe, ocean trenches with pressure that would crush most spacecraft." The aliens stared at the images in horror. They saw hurricanes, with winds strong enough to level cities, volcanoes spewing molten rock, and ice storms that could freeze exposed flesh in minutes. "Your species lives in these conditions?" asked Ambassador Kexla, his voice barely above a whisper. "We do not just live in them. said Dr. Rodriguez with a slight smile. We play sports in them. We build cities in them. Some humans actually seek out these dangerous places for recreation. This statement caused complete silence in the observation deck. The concept of deliberately seeking danger for enjoyment was completely foreign to most galactic civilizations. Dr. Venatar was studying her scanner. Readings again. The atmospheric composition alone would be deadly to most species. How do your lungs process such a corrosive gas mixture? Evolution, answered Dr. Rodriguez simply. Our planet taught us to adapt or die. Those who could not handle the conditions did not survive to pass on their genes. High Counselor Theses was beginning to understand something that frightened her. Your entire species was shaped by constant survival pressure. Captain Morrison nodded. Earth is what our scientists call a Class 12 death world. The life expectancy for most galactic species on our planet would be measured in hours, not years. The revelation hit the aliens like a physical blow. They had been seeking help from beings whose very existence was proof of survival against impossible odds. Commander Zolt accessed the galactic database on his tablet. Class 12 death worlds are theoretical. Our scientists believed that complex life could not evolve under such harsh conditions. Yet here we are, said Commander Park with a shrug. Chief Engineer? Carter was examining the station's life support systems while they talked. Your environmental controls are very sophisticated, he commented. But they seem designed for species with narrow tolerance ranges. Most civilized beings require carefully controlled environments, explained Dr. Venatar. Temperature variations of more than a few degrees can cause serious health problems. Carter looked amused. We regularly experience temperature swings of 40 degrees in a single day. Some humans work in conditions that would flash freeze most aliens or cook them alive. Lieutenant Hughes was studying the star charts on the main display. How many inhabited systems are in this sector of the galaxy? 43 systems with major populations, replied Commander Zolt. Most have been colonized for over 1,000 years, and they are all similar environments to this station, asked Hughes. Generally, yes. Most species prefer worlds with stable climates, moderate gravity, and breathable atmospheres. We call them garden worlds. The humans exchanged meaningful looks. Dr. Rodriguez spoke carefully. In our experience, comfort can make a species soft. Easy living does not prepare you for serious threats. This observation made the aliens very uncomfortable. They had built their civilizations on the principle of eliminating hardship and creating safe, predictable environments for their people. Representative Mira asked the question that was on everyone's mind. What kind of threats did your species face while evolving? The humans considered this question seriously. Captain Morrison answered first. Natural disasters were common. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive storms, ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Plus predatory animals, added Lieutenant Hughes. Creatures with claws, teeth, and poison that hunted humans for food. Disease, continued Dr. Rodriguez. Bacteria and viruses that killed millions at a time, forcing us to develop strong immune systems. Resource scarcity, said Chief Engineer Carter. Limited food and water that required competition and cooperation in equal measure. War finished. Commander Park quietly. Conflicts between human groups that lasted for generations, teaching us strategy, tactics, and the cost of losing. The aliens listened to this list with growing horror. Most of their species had evolved past such challenges millions of years ago. They had created safe, controlled worlds where such problems did not exist. Dr. Venatar was reviewing the human medical data again. Your stress response systems are incredibly advanced. Your bodies actually become more efficient under dangerous conditions. Adrenaline, explained Dr. Rodriguez. When we face immediate threats, our biochemistry changes to improve strength, speed, and reaction time. You become more dangerous when threatened, asked Ambassador Kexla. Much more dangerous, confirmed Captain Morrison. It is an automatic response. We cannot control it, High Counselor. Thysis was beginning to understand. Why these humans seem so calm about the Devourer threat? Your species has been preparing for something like this for millions of years. Commander Park nodded. We have faced extinction-level threats before. Asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, climate changes that killed most life on our planet. Each time, some humans survived and rebuilt. The implications were staggering. The aliens had called for help from the galaxy's most dangerous predators, beings who had been forged by conditions that would destroy most civilizations. Chief Engineer Carter finished his examination of the station's systems. Your technology is very advanced, but it seems designed for stable conditions. What happens when things break down during combat? Commander Zolt looked confused by the question. Our ships have multiple backup systems. Equipment failure during battle is very rare. But what if the backups fail too? Precede Carter. What if you have to fight with damaged systems and limited resources? The alien commander had no answer. Such scenarios were beyond their experience. Lieutenant Hughes was studying personnel records from previous battles against the Devourers. Most of your military commanders have extensive education in strategy and tactics, but how many have actual combat experience? This question caused embarrassed silence among the aliens.
Oh.
Most galactic civilizations had been at peace for centuries. War was something they studied in history books, not something they practiced. The war room on Station Harmony had been transformed. Multiple holographic displays showed star charts, fleet positions, and tactical analysis. The alien council members sat around the central table while the 6 humans stood near the main display. Quietly discussing something among themselves, Captain Morrison turned to address the gathered aliens. We have reviewed all your data on the Devourers. We believe we can defeat them. The statement caused an immediate uproar. Representatives from 12 species began talking at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of sounds. High Counselor Thies raised herself up and called for order. Captain Morrison, she said once the room was quiet, with respect. Every military expert in the galaxy has studied this enemy. No one has found a way to stop them. Commander Lisa Park stepped forward and activated the holographic display. That is because everyone has been trying to fight them on their terms. You have been trying to match their strength with your own strength. The display showed the standard formation that galactic fleets used against the Devourers. Large battleships arranged in defensive positions, trying to absorb the enemy's overwhelming firepower while returning fire with their own heavy weapons. This approach has failed every time, continued Park. The Devourers have superior firepower, better armor, and more ships. You cannot win a direct confrontation. Ambassador Kexla gestured with his webbed hands. If we cannot match their strength, what else can we do? We have tried everything. Lieutenant Sam Hughes moved to the display and changed the tactical projection. You have tried everything that civilized species typically try. But there are other ways to fight. The new hologram showed a completely different battle plan. Instead of large formations, it displayed small groups of ships moving in complex patterns around the enemy fleet. We call this asymmetric warfare, explained Hughes. Instead of fighting their strength, we attack their weaknesses. Dr. Venatar studied the projection with her compound eyes. What weaknesses? We have found no flaws in their defenses. Chief Engineer Ben Carter laughed and pulled up technical specifications for Devourer ships. Their size is their biggest weakness. Those massive vessels are powerful, but they are also slow and difficult to maneuver. Commander Zolt looked confused. How is that a weakness? Their size allows them to carry more weapons and stronger shields. Size means momentum, explained Carter patiently. A ship that weighs millions of tons cannot change direction quickly. If we can get small, fast ships close to them, they cannot bring their main weapons to bear. Dr. Amy Rodriguez added her own analysis to the display. We have also identified psychological weaknesses. The Devourers have been winning for so long that they expect their enemies to run away or fight defensively. Representative Mira rustled her leaves nervously. You want to attack them directly? That seems like suicide. Not directly, corrected Captain Morrison. We want to attack them in ways they do not expect, ways they are not prepared for. The humans began explaining their battle plan in detail. The aliens listened with growing amazement and horror as these predators outlined tactics that seemed completely insane. Commander Park pointed to different sections of the enemy formation. The Devourers always arrange themselves the same way. Large command ships in the center, surrounded by smaller vessels in a protective formation. This pattern has worked for them for thousands of years, because no one has been crazy enough to challenge it, added Lieutenant Hughes with a grin. Chief Engineer Carter was displaying modifications he wanted to make to the existing alien fleet. Your ships are well built, but they are designed for safety and efficiency. We need to modify them for speed and maneuverability. Dr. Venatar examined the proposed changes with growing alarm. These modifications would make the ships much more dangerous to operate. The safety margins would be completely eliminated. Safety margins are luxury when you are fighting for survival, replied Carter bluntly. The aliens were struggling to understand this human approach to combat. Everything the humans proposed violated basic principles of civilized warfare. Ambassador, Kexla spoke for many of them. Your tactics seem designed to get your own people killed, along with the enemy. Dr. Rodriguez nodded seriously. Some of us will die. That is the reality of war against a superior enemy. But some of us will survive, and the Devourers will be defeated. This casual acceptance of casualties shocked the Alien Council. Most galactic civilizations went to great lengths to avoid losing any lives in military operations. High Counselor. These has studied the battle plans with her serpentine eyes. These tactics require commanders who are willing to sacrifice themselves for victory. Do you have such people? All 6 humans looked at her with expressions that made the aliens uncomfortable. Captain Morrison answered quietly. Every human military officer takes an oath to protect others, even at the cost of their own life. We do not consider this unusual. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These were not just predators. These were predators who were willing to die to protect others. Commander. Park brought up another holographic display showing ship-to-ship combat scenarios. The Devourers have grown accustomed to enemies who fight at long range. Their weapons are optimized for destroying targets at maximum distance. We want to fight at close range, added Lieutenant Hughes. Close enough that their big guns cannot track our movements. Commander Zolt looked horrified. Close combat between spacecraft is extremely dangerous. One mistake and both ships are destroyed. Yes, agreed Hughes. But humans are very good at not making mistakes when their lives depend on it. Chief Engineer Carter was explaining his modifications to the alien ships. We need to strip out all non-essential systems. Life support, crew quarters, recreational facilities. Everything that takes up space or weight. Dr. Venatar protested. Without proper life support, the crews will be operating under extreme stress. Their performance will suffer. Human crews will operate these modified ships, said Carter simply. We are used to extreme stress. The aliens were beginning to understand that human military doctrine was fundamentally different from their own, where galactic civilizations tried to minimize risk and casualties. Humans seemed to embrace danger as a tool of war. Dr. Rodriguez was studying the Devourer's psychological profiles. There is something else we need to consider. These enemies have been winning for so long that they may not know how to handle defeat. What do you mean? Asked Representative Mira. Predators who have never faced serious resistance often panic when they encounter effective opposition, explained Rodriguez. If we can hurt them badly enough in the first engagement, they might make mistakes. Captain Morrison nodded approvingly. The key is to hit them hard and fast, before they can adapt to our tactics. The humans outlined their complete strategy. Small groups of modified ships would attack the Devourer formation from multiple directions simultaneously. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy fleet, they would focus on causing maximum confusion and damage. We want to make them afraid, said Commander Park bluntly. Fear makes intelligent beings make poor decisions. Ambassador Kexla was horrified. By this concept, you want to use terror as a weapon? The Devourers have been using terror against the galaxy for thousands of years, replied Captain Morrison. We are simply returning the favor. Lieutenant Hughes was explaining boarding tactics. That made the aliens physically uncomfortable. If we can get teams aboard their ships, we can cause damage from the inside that they cannot defend against. Boarding enemy vessels during combat, gasped Commander Zolt. That is beyond dangerous. It is practically suicide. Only if you do it wrong, said Hughes with another unsettling smile. Chief Engineer Carter finished presenting his ship modifications. These changes will increase speed by 40% and maneuverability by 60%. The trade-off is that the ships become much less comfortable and much more dangerous to operate. Dr. Venatar studied the technical specifications with growing concern. These modifications push every system beyond safe operating limits. Equipment failures would be common. Human engineers are trained to keep broken equipment working, replied Carter. We will manage. As the briefing continued, the aliens realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. A species that had turned warfare into an art form, not through superior technology, but through superior willingness to accept risk and sacrifice. High Counselor Thies spoke for the entire council when she said, "Your tactics might work, but they require crews who are willing to face almost certain death." Captain Morrison looked around the room at his fellow humans, then back at the alien leaders. "Counselor, you called for help because your people were facing extinction. We came because that is what humans do. We protect others, even when the cost is high." Aliens realized that they had not just found military allies, had found warriors who embodied a philosophy of warfare that their civilized minds could barely comprehend. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when predators went to war. The Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. 40,000 ships arranged themselves in their traditional formation, with massive command vessels at the center, surrounded by rings of smaller warships. For 2,000 years, this sight had meant certain death for every civilization that witnessed it. But today was different. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his modified cruiser, watching the enemy fleet take position round him. His crew worked with calm efficiency despite knowing they faced impossible odds. The ship's life support had been stripped down to bare minimum, and every available space was packed with weapons and ammunition. All units. This is Morrison, he spoke into his communication device. The enemy is deploying as predicted. Remember, we are not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive long enough to hurt them badly. Across the human fleet, similar scenes played out on dozens of ships. Chief Engineer Ben Carter commanded a vessel that was more weapon than spacecraft, its hull reinforced with alien armor and its engines pushed far beyond safe limits. Commander Lisa Park led a squadron of fast attack ships that could barely hold. Together under normal conditions, the alien observers watched from their command stations with a mixture of hope and terror. High Counselor Thies monitored the battle from Station Harmony. Her serpentine form coiled tightly around her command platform. "Human fleet is moving into position," reported Commander Zult, his voice tense with anticipation. Dr. Venatar studied her scanner readings with amazement. Their ships are operating at power levels that should cause immediate system failures. How are they maintaining structural integrity? The answer came from Lieutenant Sam Hughes, whose voice crackled over the communication channel. "When you grow up fixing broken things, you learn to make anything work long enough to get the job done." The Devourer fleet began its advance, moving in the same overwhelming formation that had crushed every opponent for millennia. Their massive ships bristled with reality-warping weapons capable of destroying moons. Energy readings from their fleet were beyond anything the galaxy had ever recorded. But as they moved forward, something unexpected happened. The human ships scattered. Instead of forming a defensive line like every other species had done, the modified vessels spread out in seemingly random directions. Some headed straight for the enemy fleet, others moved in wide circles, and a few simply disappeared. From scanner range entirely, the Devourer commanders had never seen this behavior before. Every previous enemy had either run away or formed defensive positions. These strange new ships seemed to be doing both, and neither at the same time. Captain Morrison's voice cut through the confusion. "Alpha Group, begin your attack run. Bravo." "Group, wait for my signal." "Charlie Group, you know what to do." Dr. Amy Rodriguez commanded one of the ships heading directly toward the Devourer formation. Her vessel was packed with sensors and analysis equipment, along with enough explosives to crack an asteroid. As she approached the enemy fleet, Scanners gathered detailed information about their shield frequencies and weapon patterns. "Target acquired," she reported calmly. "Their main command ship is exactly where we expected, beginning final approach." Devourers opened fire with their massive energy weapons. Beams of twisted reality lanced out across space, each one powerful enough to vaporize a city. But the human ships were small and fast, dancing between the deadly streams of energy with an agility that seemed impossible. "Chief," Engineer Carter's heavily armed vessel punched through the outer defensive screen, its reinforced hull absorbing damage that would have destroyed any normal spacecraft. As he reached the enemy formation, he began targeting specific systems rather than trying to destroy entire ships. "Weapons platforms neutralized," he reported as his precise fire knocked. "Outgunned turrets and sensor arrays." Moving to secondary targets, the Devourers had never faced an enemy who targeted individual ship components. Their tactics were designed for overwhelming destruction, not surgical strikes against specific systems. They began to respond more slowly as their crews struggled to adapt to this new form of warfare. Commander Park led her squadron in a high-speed attack on the enemy's left flank. Her ships moved in coordinated patterns that confused the Devourer targeting systems. When the enemy weapons locked onto one ship, would suddenly change direction, while another vessel attacked from a completely different angle. "They are having trouble tracking multiple small targets," she observed with satisfaction. "Their fire control systems are designed for engaging large fleets, not individual ships." Lieutenant Hughes had taken his ship on the most dangerous mission of all. While the other human vessels attacked the outer formations, he piloted a stealth-modified craft straight toward the massive command ship at the center of the enemy fleet. The Devourers finally began to adapt to human tactics, revealed another weakness. As they tried to target the fast-moving human ships, they began firing more rapidly and with less precision. Some of their energy beams missed completely and struck their own vessels instead. "They are shooting each other," reported Dr. Rodriguez with amazement. "Their formation is so tightly packed that missed shots are hitting friendly ships." This was exactly what the humans had hoped for. By forcing the Devourers to fire rapidly at small, fast targets, they had turned the enemy's overwhelming firepower into a liability. Captain Morrison watched the battle develop with grim satisfaction. "All units, Phase 2, begin close-range engagement." The modified human ships suddenly changed tactics. Instead of maintaining distance, they accelerated directly toward the enemy vessels. Devourers' massive weapons could not track targets, moving so close to their hulls, leaving them vulnerable to attack from point-blank range. Chief Engineer Carter's ship latched onto a Devourer
cruiser
and began cutting through its armor with industrial tools. "Breaching the hull now," he reported. "Prepare for boarding action." The concept of boarding enemy ships during space combat was so alien to Devourer thinking that they had no defense against it. As human teams fought their way through enemy vessels, they targeted critical systems from the inside. Dr. Rodriguez's ship had reached the enemy command vessel and attached itself to the hull like a parasite. "Beginning data extraction," she announced. "Their computer systems are completely unprotected against this type of intrusion." The psychological impact on the Devourer fleet was devastating. For the first time in their recorded history, they were losing ships to an inferior force. Panic began to spread through their ranks as commanders who had never experienced defeat struggled to respond to tactics they'd never imagined. Lieutenant Hughes had successfully infiltrated the main command ship and was systematically destroying its control systems. "Target neutralized," he reported. "Command and control capabilities are offline." Without central coordination, the Devourer fleet began to break apart. Individual ships tried to retreat while others continued fighting, creating chaos in their previously perfect formation. Commander Park's squadron took advantage of the confusion to attack damaged enemy vessels. "Multiple targets are attempting to withdraw," she observed. "Should we pursue?" Captain Morrison made the decision that would define the battle. "Negative. Let them run. We want survivors to spread the word about what happened here." As the Devourer fleet retreated in disorder, leaving behind dozens of destroyed ships and thousands of dead, The human vessels regrouped to assess their losses. The costs had been heavy. Nearly half the human ships were destroyed or critically damaged, and many brave crews had given their lives, but they had achieved something that seemed impossible. The Devourers had been defeated. High Counselor, these watched the aftermath in stunned silence. The enemy fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was fleeing in panic from a force less than one-tenth their size. How? She whispered to herself. Dr. Venator had been monitoring the entire battle and understood what she had witnessed. They did not try to match the enemy's strength, she explained. They used the enemy's strength against them, Ambassador. Kexla was studying the tactical reports with amazement. The humans lost over half their ships, but they are celebrating victory. How can they be happy about such losses? Captain Morrison's voice provided the answer over the communication channel. We came here to stop an enemy that threatens all life in the galaxy. Mission accomplished. Cost was high, but the alternative was extinction for billions. As rescue ships searched the debris field for survivors, the news of the victory spread. Across the galaxy, for the first time in recorded history, the Devourers had been defeated. The species that had seemed invincible had been broken by warriors from a small planet that most civilizations had never heard of. The aliens began to understand that they had witnessed something unprecedented. These humans had not just won a battle, they had changed the entire balance of power in the galaxy. High Counselor, these sent a message to the human fleet as they prepared to depart. Captain Morrison, your people have saved countless lives today. The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. Morrison's response was simple and direct. No debt necessary, Counselor. Protecting others is what humans do.